Singapore Airlines has received approval from Indian government for foreign direct investments, and this means that the merger will go through by 12th of November. Now, FDI, as a part of proposed merger of Tata Group owned by the Air India and joint venture of Vistara, the airline now expects merger to be completed by this year end, and the discussions will extend the merger timeline a bit by 31st of August, and this will accommodate the latest expected deal completion as well. Now, in terms of merger timeline so far, the merger was announced in November 22. In March 23, they got an approval from Singapore's Competition Consumer Commission, and in June, the NCLT approved the merger. In September 23, there was an approval from CCI as well. Now, in terms of shareholding pattern post the merger, well, Singapore Airlines will have 25% stake, Tata Sons will hold roughly 70% stake, and SBI Cap Trust will hold roughly 1.5% share. And Vistara's market share also, as per the recent aviation data, grew by roughly 10% last month. Now, in terms of what this means for consumers and people who are booking flight, well, number of Vistara flight booking from September 3 will not take place, and this will be for travel on or after 12th of November. So the bookings will stop from 3rd of September, and the bookings now will be redirected to Air India's website. So this is the overall view and news about the Vistara merger.
All right, thank you for that, Mahima. Now, let's in fact bring in Sanjay Lazar right now. He's the CEO of Airvillas Consultants. Hi, Sanjay, good to have you on the show again. Sanjay, obviously, you know, this has been in the talks for a while now, and we have seen quite a bit of turbulence around it, but now it's finally happened, and we are going to see the end product very, very soon. Take us through, how do you expect this to take off, and what are the challenges that you perceive to this process going forward?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And it's a big day. It's a big day for Singapore Airlines. It's an even bigger day for the Tata and Air India and, you know, Vistara, Air India Express, all of them. You know, it's come full circle. If you go back, not 10, 20, I'm talking about 50 years, when Malaysian Airlines broke up, a small fledgling country, you know, Singapore had sent its crew and pilots to be trained in Air India premises at Kalina Old Airport in 1970, 71. JRD had brought them in. And, you know, they went on to become the world's most famous airline. And, you know, you had the Singapore Girl. We had a lot of Air India pilots who had gone across then to fly their aircraft. And then in the 90s, they tried once again to, you know, to start an airline. They were rejected. And today, you know, here we are. The government of India has allowed 25% stake by Singapore Airlines. So I see this as a very momentous occasion. It's not something that happened overnight. They've been planning this since the days, even before they decided to buy the airline. They've been working on this in the background. I see a lot of change, which has already been put in place. If you look at the building blocks that have gone into it, whether it's the people management, whether it's the pay scales, whether it's the seniority, they've done, you know, the hard yards already. Going forward, you know, like you've already said on your show, 11th November will be the last date by which you would take a Vistara flight. That is a, you know, UK flight. 12th onwards, they will shift on to the Air India, you know, AOC. Going forward, what you will see is all the Vistara and the Air India, erstwhile Air India and erstwhile Vistara aircraft being branded, redone up internally. The 320s, you should have about 70 to 80 of them done by April next year, 25. You will also see a rebranding of the frequent flyer program, the combined frequent flyer program. So I expect a big bang there. You will see a rollout of a lot of new services, whether it's in-flight or not. Now, unknown to many in the public, the Vistara Air India team have been working in the background. They've been doing a bridge training. So they've already synchronized, whether it's pilots or crew or ground staff, terminology, you know, whether it's emergencies, SOPs, manuals. So everything is more or less getting there. You know, uniforms and things like that have already been announced. So I see their gradual shift. It's not that you'll see, you know, Vistara aircraft will disappear on the 12th of November. It's going to be there. But it will happen gradually in time as they refurbish, you know, the aircraft one and all. In 2025, we're going to see the challenges because I think Air India has on record about 100 aircraft that will come in, plus, including the refurbishment program, etc. So that's going to be a challenge, meeting that. Other than that, there will be, a few hiccups. You don't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. There are going to be a few people unhappy. But be that as it may, I think you can see a phase of consolidation that Indian aviation needs so very badly. It needs a second strong, very big carrier, which is the Air India group. We already have the Indigo. And, you will see competition. I think with the merger of Vistara and with the consolidation of the Express Air Asia combined, you'll see Air India putting up a very strong fight domestically. Internationally, they're already far ahead. It's the domestic market where Indigo, has its meat and drink, where you'll see a battleground playing out.
And Indigo does control a large amount of that market. We're going to come back to you, Sanjay. Jagruti Chandra, journalist at The Hindu, also joining us. Hi, Jagruti. Good to have you on the show. Jagruti, what are your thoughts on this merger now that the consolidation process essentially of all these airlines business of the Tata Group is now in progress? This particular one, you've written a lot about it. How do you see it going forward?
Yeah. So I'll come to the second part of your question a bit later, but let me just break down today's announcement for your viewers. We've had Vistara and Air India announcing today that from 12th of November, Vistara will cease to exist as we know it, that all the bookings after November 12th will move to Air India's portal, and that until November 11th, though, for Vistara, it'll be business as usual. From September 3rd onwards, the airline will start moving, all the bookings. If the passengers, September 3rd onwards, passengers will no longer be able to book tickets with Vistara for travel dates beyond November of 12th. And Vistara, though, will continue to take bookings till November 11th. And this is an important merger milestone for which there were preparations already underway, as Mr. Sanjay Lazar has mentioned. What he just provided is additional information about the refurbishment. But to begin with, passengers will continue to fly in those aubergine-colored liveried aircraft. The interiors will also remain the same. To begin with, the cabin crew uniforms, etc., will also be the same, and these changes will begin to happen gradually. In its detailed FAQ that Vistara has shared, it's also provided passengers an overview of, what services that they can continue to expect. And if they were booked on Vistara for tickets after November 12th, how the transfer to Air India will happen, what are the kind of meal services that will continue for them. If there were special meals, they will not be able to avail those. If they had booked special meet and greet at airports or assistance, that will also need to be rebooked. Some of these services are offered by Air India, while some of the other services are not offered. So some of those changes the airline has announced. Now, when you talk about what it means for the industry, it's a major milestone. The merger of Vistara into a larger group. Together, they will hold about 30% of the market share. That's the kind of market share they individually control as of now. And they will be up against a giant like Indigo, which now has a market share of about 60 to 62%. Remember, Air India as a group is the only airline right now which is both a low-cost service as well as a full-service carrier, because Air India essentially will have two large airlines, two distinct airlines. One is Air India plus Vistara, and one is Air India Express, into which Air Asia India merged. Now, Air India Express is a low-cost carrier, which is going to treat Indigo as its competitor. It'll fly on metro-to-metro domestic routes, as well as some key international routes, whereas as well as not just metro to metro routes, but other domestic routes as well. Whereas Air India will focus on key metro routes within India and fly to long-haul international destinations.
All right.
So, so this is just to sort of set up the whole Air India group for your customers and about how they can they will avail LCC as well as full service, airline services.
All right. So this is how you know, the merger will look like, and the changes that it will affect. Sanjay, if I could come back to you now. Sanjay, one of the big issues that the group has been facing since this merger was announced actually has been dealing with disgruntled employees, and time and again we've seen that issue play out. Also, obviously with this merger there will be a consolidation of the workforce, so one would assume that there would be some layoffs. It could mean job losses, it could mean realignment of these employees. So how do you see that aspect of it?
Well, let me just put it this way. You know, employees are very close to my heart. I've been there and done that, so I know that very much. There will be, like I said, you know, you can't make an omelette without breaking a few eggs. There is going to be some, I won't say unhappiness, but there's going to be some murmurs of disgruntlement at some point in the ranks. There probably already is, as we all have seen and heard in the last year. Be that as it may, this is a epoch moment in Indian aviation. I can see that the Tata Group is not really going to have too much of problems on an industrial relations front, simply because, you know, the unions of the past, barring the pilots, don't even exist anymore. You've had the Air India Express cabin crew union that, you know, created a very strong voice, but I think they got across the table eventually and they've sorted it out. I do believe whatever little problems that employees do find themselves in, the Tata Group has now worked with, you know, the Air India employees and the Air India Express employees for well over 2 years now. They've learned, you know, let's say the nitty-gritty of industrial relations and how to handle it. They've got some great experienced people. I think they'll sort that out. Layoffs, yes. Now, there was a certain number of people, let's say, who were becoming excess in the workforce. And I won't say, you know, sack or retrench, or I'm using very carefully, you know, chosen words, because on the Air India side, if you recall, because of the SPA with the government, the Tatas have already given one VRS. They've announced a second one. They'll start releasing people. They've got a couple of thousand people out of the way that way. As far as people who did not get allocated work positions, you know, they've been helped or asked if they wanted retraining to take up jobs in other companies or in other group companies. From the Vistara side, I believe there are a few who are going to, you know, not make it to the final merged airline, and they're either offered alternate jobs or, you know, are looking in the job market themselves. There is a program separation scheme that has been announced there as well. So I think you know, the Tatas are going to be very careful and deal with this with kid gloves. It's a very, very big, you know, merger they're doing. It's literally been unheard of. I've seen 4 or 5 Indian aviation mergers in my years, and they've all been very messy. I think this is being handled extremely well so far. You will get the odd, you know, person popping up and saying, you know, hey, I didn't get this, or I don't want this, or, you know, I want to go back to my way. I know that. I've been there. I've done that myself. So, you know, I'd like to see this going through quite smoothly.
Well, that's, you know, we'll have to wait and watch out for that. But just coming back very, very quickly to you, Jagriti, the big question is going to be, how will this impact customer experience? Now, Vistara, largely, people have had a good experience with the airline. Air India, not so. We've heard complaints on the international routes, and earlier on in its earlier avatar, of course, there were more, but it hasn't done tremendously well after the Tatas got it as well. So how do you see this now going forward?
Well, I'll say that change is afoot in Air India. It's a mammoth airline, and there are many legacy issues. And the management is working overnight to bring about those changes, to ensure that the aircraft interiors are refurbished. There have been global challenges as far as supply chain issues are concerned, and these are issues that airlines around the world are grappling. So I would in fact go on to say that Vistara's coming into Air India will give passengers that sort of elevated experience. Most of the complaints, though, as far as Air India is concerned, are on the international front, not so much on the domestic, because of the legacy aircraft, that have not been refurbished. They were never refurbished. Whether it's the seat back screens, in-flight screens that you talk about, or the problems with the seats themselves. The look and feel, the experience, because of just the new aircraft, the 70 aircraft in Vistara's fleet, will be something that customers should look forward to. Yes, there is a lot of disappointment among the loyal clientele of Vistara, but we get to hear from the management that their aim is to elevate the standards of Air India to match up to Vistara's, certain USPs that the passengers really liked. And some of the best practices of Vistara would be absorbed into Air India. So I would say it's a win-win for the customers as well.